You're traveling through the unknown, a journey beyond the corners of reality, where the shadows whisper and the chill runs deep. Welcome to the dimension where your deepest fears are given form. This is The Midnight Mystery.
Welcome to The Midnight Mystery. This episode is called I Ignored the Warnings About My Apartment's Locked Door. In each episode, we delve into the shadowed corners of our existence, bringing you tales of the eerie, the uncanny, and the downright terrifying. From the realms of the supernatural to the depths of the human psyche, no stone is left unturned, no dark secret left hidden. As the clock once again draws near midnight, prepare to embark on another adventure into the uncanny, the eerie, the horrifying, the midnight mystery. It's a strange thing, isn't it, when a door in your own home refuses to open? I had just moved into this aging apartment, looking for some peace and a break from skyrocketing rents. The place had a certain rustic charm, with its worn wooden floors and creaky hinges. Yeah, I'd heard some local myths about the building's haunted history, but that stuff's never impressed me. Superstitions are a dime a dozen when a building gets old enough. But then there was this door, right off the main hallway, unnoticeable enough but for one detail. It had no keyhole, no handle either, just a slab of wood, sturdier than it looked, fused seamlessly into the surrounding frame. I pressed my ear to it once or twice, half expecting to hear ghostly whispers or some nonsense like that. Nothing. "You got any idea what's behind that door?" I asked the landlord, Mr. Thompson, when he came around to fix the leaking tap in the kitchen. "Oh, that door," he muttered, not meeting my eyes. He quickly tightened a bolt and picked up his toolbox. "Historical thing, you know? Old buildings have their quirks. Best to leave it be." "Historical? It's not even on the building's blueprints." I checked. He chuckled, a sound that had no humor in it. "Son, not everything shows up on blueprints. Sometimes walls keep secrets better than people." I frowned. The cryptic answers irked me, but breaking down a door in a rented apartment didn't sound like a smart move, legally speaking. "So it's just there? Nothing to know about it?" "Nothing you'd want to know," he said, and made his exit quicker than I would have liked. Fine. A mysterious, unyielding door in a supposedly haunted building. My curiosity was piqued, sure, but I wasn't about to lose sleep over it. Must be some kind of architectural oddity. Buildings like these were filled with them. Vestiges of bygone eras, design quirks that survived into the modern day without context. I convinced myself it was just another part of the apartment's dated charm. I returned to unpacking my boxes, setting up my new, quiet life. I placed my desk facing the window, away from the hallway, away from the door. If it wanted to keep its secrets, it was welcome to them. What's the worst that could happen? I should have known better than to ask that question. Because the thing about questions is, sometimes they get answered. And that's when I heard it, the faintest creak, like wood warping under stress. My head snapped around. The door. It had opened, just a crack. My heart pounded as I stared at the narrow crack in the door. An eye. Was I really seeing an eye peering through? My mind raced through the possibilities. It could be a prank, some elaborate setup by Mr. Thompson to scare the new tenant. An illusion, maybe. But what if it wasn't? Summoning the last scraps of my courage, I took slow, hesitant steps toward the door. Each footfall echoed in the empty hallway, and I felt a growing sense of dread. "Who's there?" I called out, my voice trembling more than I'd like to admit. No answer. The eye remained fixated on me, unblinking. I reached out, my fingers inches away from touching the wood, preparing to shove the door open. I needed to see, to know. But just as my fingertips were about to make contact, the door slammed shut with a deafening bang. Silence. I stood there, trembling, my hands still suspended in the air. Whatever it was, it had seen me. And now, I couldn't unsee it. I could feel the apartment change after that night. Subtle shifts at first, like my keys not being where I'd left them, or finding my coffee mug in the bathroom instead of the kitchen. It's the kind of stuff you brush off, blame on fatigue or distraction. But then, things escalated. I'd be sitting on the couch, engrossed in a book, and the television would snap to life at exactly midnight, drowning the room in static. I'd rushed to turn it off, rattled, my skin tingling with static electricity, as if the TV were emitting more than just visual noise. Okay, what the hell is going on? I muttered to myself one evening, fed up. The room had just plunged into another of its cold spots, a sudden drop in temperature that fogged up my breath and made me see my own exhalations. Enough, I said, as if the apartment could hear me. This stops now. Determined to catch whatever was causing these disturbances, I set up a camera facing the door. If something was going to mess with me, it would have to show itself. I watched the feed from my laptop, hours ticking by with nothing but the grainy image of the door and the darkened hallway. Eventually, I dozed off. I woke up with a start at midnight, courtesy of the TV blaring static. Rubbing my eyes, I checked the camera footage. It was corrupted, stopping at 11:59 p.m., showing nothing but static from that point on. This can't be, I muttered, frantically clicking and trying to recover the file. It was as if the camera had been sabotaged at the most crucial moment. Infuriated and desperate, I dialed Mr. Thompson's number. Listen, there are strange things happening here. I don't know what kind of sick game this is, but it has to stop. I barked into the phone. Jack, you were warned. Old buildings have quirks, Thompson replied, his voice thick with feigned ignorance or genuine disinterest. I couldn't tell. This is not a quirk, Thompson. Objects are moving. The TV is... I told you, Jack. There are things you're better off not knowing. My toolbox lay sprawled on the floor. A desperate arsenal. Hammer, screwdrivers, even a power drill. I'd tried everything, attacked the door like a man possessed, but it stood there, unyielding, mocking me. Not even a dent. Damn it, I hissed, my frustration boiling over. It was like trying to penetrate a fortress with a toothpick. Having reached my wit's end, I decided to seek advice. Everyone in the building seemed blissfully ignorant, or at least pretended to be, except one, an old man named Gerald who lived in the apartment below me. There were rumors that he'd been here since the building was erected, and I was desperate enough to entertain neighborhood gossip. Ah, the door, Gerald said, inviting me in, his voice gravelly with age. His apartment was a strange mix of archaic furniture and modern technology. I wondered when you'd come ask about it. So you know something? I pressed, my patience wearing thin. He sighed, his eyes narrowing. I know enough to stay away, and you should too. I can't. I need to know what's behind it. Gerald studied me for a long moment. Some doors are locked for a reason, Jack. Leave it be. Ignoring his advice felt like arrogance, but I couldn't stop now. I have to try, I said, already heading for the door. Gerald's final words followed me out. Just remember, curiosity killed more than just the cat. That night, armed with a crowbar, I stood before the door. Gerald's warning echoed in my mind, but I pushed it away. I wedged the crowbar into the small space between the door and its frame, applying all my weight. The wood creaked, groaned, and finally gave way. The door swung open. For a second, I hesitated, staring into the abyss of a room bathed in darkness. Then, taking a deep breath, I stepped in. The door slammed shut behind me, plunging me into pitch black. I fumbled for my phone, using it as a flashlight. The room was empty, or so it seemed. But then I heard it, whispers, indistinct, coming from all directions. They grew louder, like a cacophony of voices speaking a language I couldn't understand. I'm not alone, am I? I said, my voice trembling. The room seemed to absorb my words, the whispers escalating into what sounded like laughter, or was it weeping? I was trapped, ensnared in a room that shouldn't exist, accompanied by things unseen. The dread settling in my gut told me one terrifying thing. I had crossed a line, violated a sanctuary, and now I was in their world. And they were not pleased. Suddenly the darkness was replaced with blinding light. I blinked, trying to adjust my vision, and as I did, the sight before me made my blood run cold. The walls were plastered with photographs, all displaying the terrified faces of previous tenants. Some I recognized from missing persons reports on local news. All eyes filled with raw, palpable fear. But it wasn't just the photographs that sent a shiver down my spine. At the far end of the room, another door stood, similarly featureless, with no handle or keyhole. What was this place? A collection of trapped souls? A getaway? I barely had time to process when I heard a voice dripping with malicious glee. Welcome, you're the next in line. Whirling around, I came face to face with the very eye I'd seen before. But now it was attached to a face so twisted and disfigured, it was barely human. The skin was pale and stretched, the lips curled into a malevolent grin. Every instinct screamed for me to run, but my legs felt like lead. I gripped the crowbar tighter, holding it defensively in front of me. The creature approached, its movements eerily graceful. You wanted to know, Jack, and now you do. I lunged at it, swinging the crowbar. It managed to dodge, but the move bought me a few precious seconds. My only way out was that other door, and I bolted toward it. The creature gave chase, but I reached the door first, jamming the crowbar into the tiny gap and leveraging it open. Stumbling through, I found myself not in another nightmare room, but back in my own apartment. I slammed the door shut, my chest heaving, sweat pouring down my brow. Turning to reseal that hellish chamber, my heart skipped a beat. Where the room had been, there was now just a plain wall. No door, no sign of the horror I'd just escaped. It was as if it had never existed. I sank to the floor, crowbar still clutched in my trembling hand. The pictures, the creature, that voice. Had it been real? Or had I just experienced the most vivid nightmare of my life? But the crowbar's worn edge and the adrenaline pumping through my veins told a different story. I didn't waste a minute. I shoved my belongings into bags and boxes, not caring for organization or care. Every second in that apartment felt like borrowed time, each tick of the clock a sinister drumbeat leading to some unspoken horror. I had to get out. I didn't even bother to tell Mr. Thompson. I just left the keys on the kitchen counter, grabbed my stuff, and bolted. The Uber driver must have thought I was running from a crime scene or a bad breakup, by the way. I kept glancing back at the building as we drove off. I moved into a new apartment across the city. New walls, new locks, a new life, or so I thought. The place seemed innocuous enough, a stark contrast to the dated, creepy building I'd just left behind. I felt a sense of relief wash over me. Maybe here I could forget that room, that creature, that ungodly eye. As I unpacked, I made my way through the layout of the new apartment, living room, kitchen, bathroom, bedroom, all as they should be, until I turned a corner and froze. There it was, an identical door, no handle, no keyhole, mocking me in its silence. "You've got to be kidding me," I whispered, a knot forming in the pit of my stomach. My phone buzzed, snapping me out of my daze, a new email notification. I opened it. It was from an anonymous sender, a message with just one line. "Welcome, you're the next in line." I hope you enjoyed our episode. I'd like to extend a heartfelt thanks to you, our brave listeners. Your presence in this shared journey into the unknown is what fuels our stories. Your fascination is our motivation. Did this episode send chills down your spine? Then leave your comments, your thoughts and theories, your own midnight mysteries. Your feedback is the beacon that guides us through the uncharted territories of our stories. And if you haven't already, remember to subscribe to our channel. By joining the Midnight Mystery family, you won't miss out on a single chilling tale. As a subscriber, you'll be the first to know when a new episode lurks around the corner, ready to pull you back into the shadowy depths of the unknown. This is the Midnight Mystery signing off, leaving you with a simple reminder. When the clock strikes 12, fear the silence, for that's when our tales come to life. Good night, Midnight listeners. And remember, not all who wander into the dark are lost.